I've known a lot of people that think they are too old to get a job. Tons of people, tons. They say, oh, I'm too old. There's no way I can get a job in field XYZ. They just want to hire young graduates. And they basically give up. And I think it's really sad. And that's why I decided to make this video, because there's actually advantages to being older and looking for a job. There's a bunch of them. There's all kinds of things that you bring to a company that perhaps a younger candidate is not bringing. And we're going to talk about all of them in this video. But first, I want to talk about the two most important things. The two most important things that the people who are going to be interviewing you are looking for. So let's say you apply for a job and you get a job interview and you have, let's just say, a remote interview, because a lot of the interviews nowadays, they're done remotely. So you show up to your interview and you have to answer some questions about, yourself or your qualifications. So there's really two things that these people are looking for. Number one is, can you perform the job duties? Do you have the skills? And why do you have the skills? So you need to have basically a proven track record. Sometimes they'll ask you questions, technical questions, that are very specific to your job, and you need to be ready to answer those. These people are just trying to determine whether or not you can perform the job. That is the number one thing. Can you do the job? Do you have the skills? If you don't have the skills, you shouldn't lie. You should be honest. You should be straightforward and just be yourself, right? It's better if you're honest. Another thing these people are looking for is whether or not you are a decent person to work with. I mean, think about it. If you and 4 of your coworkers are hiring someone to work at a company, would you want to hire someone that you can't really work with? Someone who you feel might bring problems down the line? No, you want to hire someone who can do the job, someone who is dependable, someone who is pleasant to be around, and when they don't know, they'll ask. But at the same time, you don't want to hire someone who's going to be, really needy and is going to need a lot of hand-holding. No, you want to hire someone who's independent, strong, and is a good person to be around, a good coworker. Because these are going to be your coworkers. There's a good chance that several of the people on your committee, the interview committee, are going to be your coworkers. So the type of person you are, how you come across in the interview, really, really matters. Okay, so let's talk about now some of the advantages you have from being older, because a lot of people think that, being old that's it. I'm too old to get a job. It is a myth. Experience and wisdom, this is something that an older person can bring to the job. It's not necessarily true that the older you get, the wiser you are. People seem to think that, but it's not necessarily true. But in general, the more life experience you have, the more experiences you've had at different jobs, the better you become. If you're comparing someone who has had, 4 or 5 different jobs, and each job has, lasted several years, to someone who's fresh out of college, who's never worked on a team, who's never worked with other people, who doesn't really have those conflict resolution skills. Maybe they don't really know how to be professional and how to handle difficult situations yet. No, you'd rather hire someone who has been around the block, someone who has worked on teams, someone who has something to bring to the company. So don't let your age be a barrier, because really, with experience comes wisdom in some sense. So the older you are, the more experience you have. Even if it's a different job, you still have those people skills that a lot of times a younger candidate won't have. You're never too old to get a job. There is a stereotype that older people have a hard time adapting, and that's not true. It comes from that saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, maybe not a dog, but we're not dogs, we're human beings, right? And so because you have so much experience, because you've had so many jobs in your life, because you're older, you have adapted to various roles. Maybe you've had very diverse jobs. Maybe you worked as a cashier, and then you worked as, a fireman, and then you worked as an accountant, and now you're working as a programmer. So, those experiences show that you have the ability to adapt to a variety of situations. Whereas a younger candidate, someone who's coming in fresh out of college, they don't really know much, right? They're just not there yet, and there's nothing they can really do about it until they get in the job force and they actually start working and gaining that experience. There is nothing like experience, and with your age, you have a lot to bring to the table. Reliability is another one. Older workers are often seen as more reliable. I know when I was younger, I was not a very reliable worker. I would job hop from job to job, and I really was not a very good employee. It wasn't until I got older and started taking my work more seriously that I started becoming more reliable. So reliability is key. I mean, no one wants to hire someone that's not reliable. So by being older, automatically you pretty much have that aura about you. You know, people are going to look at you as a more reliable person than a younger person. Whether or not it's true is another story. There's plenty of young people who are reliable, but you give off that impression because you're older. And that's a strength you should use. And that's perhaps something that, you know, you can mention in the interview in some way, not directly, but maybe indirectly. And even if you don't, it's going to come across because you're older, because people typically view older people as more reliable. Life skills is a big one. Because you are older, by definition, you have more life experience. And there's no way that anyone can say that you don't, right? If you are 55 years old and some of your teammates are 25 or 30, you have way more experience than these people because you've been alive longer. You have been on this planet a lot longer than a lot of your other teammates. So you're going to have a different view of the world because you've had different life experiences. So when you're trying to come up with solutions to problems or perhaps resolve a conflict at work, you're going to have those experiences that you can use and bring to the team. It makes a big difference. It really, really does. And so being older is not really a crutch. It's a strength in many cases. You are never too old to apply for jobs. Never. Don't let age be a factor that keeps you back. Because what's the point? What's the point in just giving up? If you want to work in a specific field and you think you're too old and you choose not to apply, then you've already given up. You've already failed. If you try, you fill out the application, you submit a really good resume, you do your due diligence, you do good work, you find out what the company is looking for, and you tailor your resume to those skills, and then you apply for the job, there's a good chance you'll get it, or at least you'll get an interview. And if you don't, then that's okay. At least you tried. But the point I'm trying to make is if you don't try, you will never succeed. And if you try and you fail, that's okay. You can look back and you can say, hey, at least I tried. At least I tried. And you can learn from your failures. You can try to find out what did you do wrong. And it's not really until you apply for various roles and then you start getting some feedback that you can perhaps change your resume or, change things, make improvements. But you're never going to get anywhere if you don't try. What do you think? Do you think age is a big factor when it comes to hiring? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that older people have a harder time finding jobs? If so, leave a comment below and give me the reasons. Remember, every time you leave comments, especially constructive ones, it really helps people watching these videos. Get out there and go find the job if you want one. Don't let age be a deciding factor in your life. I really think you can do it. You have that wisdom, you have that experience. People look up to you automatically because you're older. Use what you have. I always believe that people in life should use what they have. And if you're older, you already have age on your side. So use that and get out there and get a job. Good luck.